are two things I want to do in my little speech here. One is I want to thank everybody. And then the second thing is I'm going to retell something that I spoke at Mary and Philip's wedding yesterday as requested. Just part of it. So, which should I start with? The story or the thanks? The thank yous. Okay, the thank yous. The thank yous. I mean, this was definitely a joint, production by everybody, which is so typical of Mary, because she's, a stage manager, and she delegated, I don't know how many jobs to how many people, because, that was the way we lived, right? This was the way we were really going to enjoy the party if we all participated. So we have a lot of participants, and I thank all of you guys. And especially one person, Bailey. It was in charge for the last 2 days. She also has come all the way from North Carolina. And then I wanted to thank all the other people who have come from very far away, because that is, I know, that's a big deal. So everybody who knows that they've come from far away, please save yourselves. And then the people who know about it, I will thank in public. So Sue, that was so wonderful that she has come from England. And then Bailey, I have already mentioned. And then there's the best man. Best man, Aram, who came all the way from Hong Kong. Wow. From a long way, not as far as Hong Kong.
Not even worth mentioning.
Thank them. But no, it's wonderful that you guys have come from so far away. I know it's really cool. So, thank you all very much for coming. And then a few more thanks, which Peter already covered this, but many, many thanks to Karen and Peter Gerstoft. Because this isn't an enormous thing to take on, this reception, this party, and they have, they're hosting this. I mean, they're wonderful, and I thank them very, very much for taking this enormous thing on. So the last thing I'm going to do is tell the story that I told at the wedding. And it's a story about my strongest memory of Philip. My first strongest memory of Philip. And it happened about a year ago, and Mary had just come out of her second operation within the last 24 hours. And her second operation had lasted for about 5 hours. And it was an emergency because she wasn't expected to do this, but she was bleeding internally. So she went in and she came out, and we were told, okay, she's out now. She's in the post-op room and you can go visit her. And so we went, and we're standing there visiting with Mary, and Mary looked terrible. really, really bad. I've seen Mary many times in the post-op room, and this was the worst. And I'm really bad, at comforting people in that position. So we're standing there, and Philip, he just seemed to know automatically he should stand at the foot of Mary's bed. So he would be the first person she would see when she would come out of this terrible, mind state. Because she was still very, anesthetized, but not enough, so she was in a lot of pain. So she opens her eyes, and there's Philip, and then all over are these nurses, coming and going and coming and going and turning wires and plugging things in. And, I'm just thinking, oh. And Philip suddenly says to Mary, well, let's see how well you remember your Danish. So one of the And so together they started counting. And by the time they got to about 6 or 7, Mary was actually awake. I mean, really, you know, she'd come out of this like incredibly foggy place. And she was connecting to Philip. And they kept counting. And then there was this amazing sort of, you know, other thing happening, which was there was a nurse there who Philip and Mary had already met, and they knew her, and she was Danish. And so she started to count with Mary. I don't know. So then Mary, who had now sort of woken up and was a little bit brighter, said the only thing that she could say that was, you know, like a complete thought in Danish was, "I am beautiful." And she said it to the nurse, who understood her, and replied in Danish, "Yes, you are beautiful." So the amazing thing for me was that Philip was there. Philip really orchestrated this whole thing because he had the idea, right, to start speaking in Danish. And he seemed to know that by doing that, he would, you know, begin to energize that part of Mary's mind which was really strong, which is her intellect or whatever it is. And they got, you know, connected. And suddenly she knew, you know, to come out of that horrible state she was in because Philip was there. And so to me, it was like, here was this, you know, knight in shining armor, or prince from half Danish, half Canadian, and had come to rescue his sleeping beauty. He was in a terrible place, and he rescued her. I mean, literally rescued her. And you know, really, I don't know how many other times ever I've ever been more grateful to Philip for that, you know, moment, because that was so special to me. So that's how I began to know.